everyone, welcome again to The Color J. I wanted to tackle the issue of self-confidence today because it's been something that I've been struggling with for years. And I'm not going to give you some sob story of the fact that I never had any talents or I didn't know my talents and that's why I didn't have self-confidence, because I knew that there were things that I was good at. But it just never translated into self-confidence. And so if you are here, it's probably because of one of two things. One, you think you don't have self-confidence or you don't have enough self-confidence, and you might think that it's somehow linked to either you not knowing what you're good at, or it might be that you think that you're not good at anything, or you know that there are things that you're good at, but you just can't understand why it is that you never can go for what you want. And so I've realized a long time ago that this is one of the traits that will make or break you. If you want to be successful, a lot of people may think that it has to do with talent, or you can be inherently good at certain things or find certain things easy, but there are also things that you find tough at the beginning that you actually can get better at. So where exactly does self-confidence fit in? How do you get it if you don't have it? What is it good for? And what is it? Those are the type of things that I want to talk about today. So I wanted to say that actually one of my first encounters with self-confidence was many years ago. I remember I was at this event and we were in this crowd of people. I can't remember exactly what the event was, but I remember that we were all seated at tables and we were waiting for the event to start. And this guy walked in and he was wearing a long shorts and big hair. And as he walked in, the door slammed shut behind him. And I remember everybody sort of was at that stage aware of his presence, so they all turned around from whatever they were doing and looked at him, including me. But he just confidently walked across the middle of this open floor towards wherever he was going. At some point, he dropped something and he just turned around, did a little twirl, picked up what he dropped and continued to walk. It was as if he was completely unaware of us being there. At some stage, I think he recognized somebody in the crowd and he smiled at the person and waved. Person smiled back and he continued walking off. And I remember thinking, so this guy was not your typical, there was nothing about him by the world standards that made him handsome or anything like that. But there was something about him that just exuded self-confidence. And I remember at that time thinking, now for those people who are self-confident, you may think, what kind of story is this? That's just how you do it. But for people who are not self-confident, I'll tell you what I would have done. I would have tried to close the door as quietly as possible. First thing I would do is check whether there was a way to cross to the other side of the room, around the tables and not in the middle of the floor like he did it, as quietly as possible and almost crawl towards the back. And I'm telling you, even if my mother had sat in that crowd and waved at me, I probably wouldn't have recognized it because I would have been so self-aware that I just walked in and disturbed everybody and everybody's looking at me. As young as I was at that stage, I was thinking, I almost wished that I was him, and I knew that I wanted and needed what he had. And then at the same time, on the flip side of it, you would see some people who just seem to have every potent combination that one could have in order to be self-confident, but they are full of self-doubt and insecure. And I know that there are many definitions out there, many philosophies about what self-confidence is, but I've come to the conclusion that it's based on three things. Number one, self-confidence is when you're like you. Self-confidence is the ability to say, if I had to meet myself, I would want to be friends with me. I like what my mind does when I'm alone, and I'm an interesting person. And it's that ability to accept who you are, even if no one else likes you, you like you. That's the first thing. The second thing for me, self-confidence is, and this is big, this is huge, because I think this is the part that I missed for a long time. It is the ability to trust yourself. It is if you have, again, the ability to give yourself a certain task, would you trust that you are the type of person that would complete that task? and complete it with integrity, so no shortcuts, no cheating, and do it well, and even improve on it over time. And then the third thing I think self-confidence is the ability to be realistic, to understand that not everybody will like you, to understand that sometimes you will fail at a task, but to be able to prepare for that moment, to be able to have some form of resilience to come back from that failure, and be okay with yourself, even start over again, and if you start over, even possibly be a better and stronger version of yourself. It's even being able to be thankful that that thing happened to you because it brought something new out of you, or it fortified the person that you already are. So for me, even though I had all of those talents, I still wasn't self-confident. And so self-confidence is needed because it's you giving your talent permission to live out its purpose, regardless of whether other people okay it. So without self-confidence, if I can make an analogy, I feel it's like you know, if you're a car and you've got all the latest tech in the car and the car is fueled up, and you even have a license, you have your driver's license, but you're too afraid to go on the road with the car because you wonder, what if there's a drunk driver on the road? What if there are roadblocks on the road? What if people don't like my driving style? And so the car just remains, it's parked, beautifully parked, but it's not living out its purpose. Does it have the potential to drive? Does it have everything that it needs? Yes. But because you don't give yourself permission to be on the road, that car never gets to see new places, never gets to see how fast it can go on the road, never gets to pick up things, drop it off. And so it's not living out and being meaningful for the purpose in which it was created. And I think that is where a lot of us are. It's not just, many of us think, if I just want to know what my talents are, and I just want to be good at something, and I feel I'm good at nothing, and that's why I don't have self-confidence. Most of the times it's not even that. Some of us, if you're honest with yourself, you know that there's something that you're good at, but you know that you lack the ability to give yourself permission to say, I'm good at something and I'm going to offer this to the world. I've come to the conclusion that there are actually two types of self-confidence. There's area-specific self-confidence, and then there's general self-confidence. And I know that most people don't even know this, but they actually have area-specific self-confidence. So most of us we know that there are certain things that we can do. So you have the confidence that you, for example, can go to YouTube and search for something and find it. You're not like your great granny was, or your mother, or whoever, with a computer where you know that you are completely useless. So you have self-confidence in the fact that you can use the internet, for example. So there might be many things that you are confident about. Those are area-specific self-confidence. But that's usually not what we talk about when we talk about self-confidence. What we talk about when we say we don't have it is general self-confidence. So this is when I sort of want to make a distinction between the two, because area-specific confidence shows you that you can do something, whereas general self-confidence is when you know that you could do anything. And this is what most people actually want. You might think that you don't have self-confidence because you don't know what your talent is, and you don't know, and you're not good at anything, but it's really not always linked to what you're able to do. And so how do you generate this general self-confidence, this overall self-confidence? And this is, I think, where the second point comes in, when I said that it's linked to you being able to trust yourself. Now, you'll never know what actually started triggering my self-confidence. It was the day that I decided that I was going to do the dishes consistently every day, regardless of how I felt. And so this is what I want to come back to. The reason, or the way in which we can build overall self-confidence, is to do new things. And I want to be careful with saying this, because I'm not saying it has to be entirely. What most people experience when they say they don't have self-confidence is that they don't trust themselves. And the reason why people don't trust themselves is because they've tried many things and they haven't completed it. Although one of the ways in which you can increase your self-confidence is by trying new things, you actually accomplish the exact opposite when you try new things but you don't finish them. Because our brains are smart. It keeps a record of all the things that you've done and it will play it back to you. So I decided to do the dishes every night regardless of how I felt, was because I knew I wanted to start a business one day, and yes, I went to go study, but I just didn't believe that I could do it. And this was because my brain kept telling me, yeah, well, what if you run into something that you haven't seen before, and what if something goes wrong and you don't have the creativity or the innovation to hold that business together? Because based on your track record, remember, if you're too tired or if you have too much on your plate or too late, then you don't finish even the basic tasks. So I needed to build a rapport with myself, that I am the type of person that can be trusted to complete a task, to become better at something without giving excuses. So you need to try new things, but at the beginning, rather try things that are new but not completely new. Make it linked to something that you already do. So for example, you already wake up, right? Maybe you're the type of person that wakes up, and when you wake up, the first thing you think about is how little sleep you got and how bad your sleep was, or all the things that you need to do today. Do one new thing. When you wake up in the morning, when that thought comes that you always have, replace it with a new thought and ask yourself, okay, from now onwards when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to think, what am I grateful for? If you want to know how long, you repeat it until it becomes natural to you. And then you try another new thing. Again, link it to something that you're already doing. You already have tasks to do for the day, but you're bad at completing those tasks. Have you ever done a to-do list and not finished it? Or have you never done a to-do list? Do one. Make a to-do list, put 1 or 2 things off there so that you can tick it off. Now you've done a new thing. If you always eat lunch in a specific spot on a specific chair, just go eat it somewhere new. You are doing 2 things. Firstly, you are making your brain comfortable with new things. And along the way, you might even discover that your mood starts to change because you are more thankful. You meet new people, you see birds that you haven't seen before because you're sitting in a new spot. And what your brain then does is it builds up this record of change is good, new things are exciting, or even just it's not that bad actually to try something new. So if you constantly then expose yourself to something that is new, that's how you start to build your self-confidence. Because most people say they lack self-confidence because they're afraid of the unknown. You're afraid to talk to that guy or that girl because you're afraid that firstly, you don't have a good conversation starter, and secondly, if you do have a good conversation starter, will you be able to maintain it, or will there be those awkward silences? And that's because, again, what your brain is focused on is the fact that it's new and it doesn't know how to deal with new because it doesn't do new often. Habits work like this. If you adopt something new and your brain likes it, it will want to do another new thing and another new thing. And before you know it, you are so comfortable with, and you actually start to enjoy change. And you will find that your confidence actually starts to peak and starts to grow. Well, I think I need to say this is very important, because you might have thought, yeah, but I've done that before, but it didn't work. One of the things that I also saw that I needed to do was, the brain has a natural tendency to look for the bad. It's sort of always primitively in survival mode. So I've done new things in the past, but what I didn't do was to make a note of remembering that I did a new thing. If you've woken up in the morning and you have replaced your negative thought of how bad this day is going to go with something that you're thankful for, tell yourself, today I actually did it. I compliment yourself, learn to compliment yourself for the fact that you have now thought of something to be thankful for. Because what you're then doing is you're building an internal dialogue with yourself. Again, where you start to like yourself. Because we don't really compliment people that we don't like. And it's hard sometimes for us to compliment ourselves. So you're doing the first point where you, number one, you like yourself. So you keep complimenting yourself. The second thing you're doing is you're learning to trust yourself. Because now, every time you compliment yourself, it's a track record that you build, a portfolio that your brain is keeping of all the new things that you've done. every time that you've persisted in being thankful, even if you still woke up feeling whatever. And what it also does is it shows you, because over time it's going to become so natural for you to think of what you're thankful for. Your brain then realizes that you have the ability to change and become better. And so, like I said, that kind of touches on the third point, which is the ability to grow and to become better. But if any of you listening to this have tried other methods to build your self-confidence, please leave a comment. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.